We've decoded the intel from the First Order spy, and it confirms the worst. Somehow Palpatine returned.
Hello, welcome to Unequal Sequel. My name is Dave, and I'm one of the two hosts of this moist podcast.
I'm sorry. Moist just made me chuckle. And I'm Rich, and I'm the other host of this moist podcast. Think of me as Sandy to Dave's Danny Zuko. He's endlessly cool, and I dress in leather and change everything I am for my man.
It's very good. The premise of Unequal Sequel is very simple. We ask our guests their best ever sequel, their worst ever sequel, and finally their dream sequel.
And of course, we'll quite often drift off and talk about maybe other movies and sometimes life in general.
And we do love to drop big fat spoilers to those movies. So if we mention a movie you haven't seen and you don't want us to spoil it, most of them they're quite old, but sometimes they're not. Go away. Go clean your trainers. They need a good scrub. Then come back, and it will all be over, and you can get back on with the rest of the episode. Because in today's episode, we are joined by James Dyer.
James is the digital editor-in-chief of Empire magazine, and you'll also recognise his voice from the Empire podcast, and he's also the host of the Pilot TV podcast, talking about brilliant TV. Definitely worth a listen.
We're very excited to sit down with James and chat all things sequels with him.
These are James Dyer's Unequal Sequels. Enjoy!
Can you remember the first sequel you got excited about?
Oh, Christ. I'm very, very old, so no. First sequel I got excited about. See, it wasn't The Empire Strikes Back, because I was so young when I watched Star Wars, I didn't understand the concept of sequels, and I skipped Empire Strikes Back and went straight to Jedi because I was an idiot, because children are like that. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't something that excited me. It will have been something really, really awful, like something really shit. From when I was a kid, I have no doubt. But I know the sequel I was most excited about was, as I think is true for a lot of people, would have been The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Because that, for me, was the first time I recall cinema being like a transcendent cultural event. Like, it was like Star Wars is coming back, and oh my fucking God. And it was just like you were counting down the days. I mean, obviously it ended in mild disappointment, but like you were counting down the days till this thing. And it was this, and like the trailer, remember when the trailer went online?
Yeah.
And obviously, due to the year, it was 99, not everyone had the internet back then. So I didn't have broadband. So it was the first trailer event on the internet where everyone was downloading this trailer and watching this trailer. And yeah, I was consumed by it. So back in 99, I was working as a website designer for us at Empire. And I remember just watching this at work and being like, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. And it wasn't.
Oh, I bet your job, did you have good internet then? Because when I tried to download it in 99, it took about 4 days for me.
Yeah, I think it's.
If I'd been at home, it would have been.
It was just a joke. Oh, I can see a droid. They've got droids, and then you wait a little bit longer. You're like, what the fuck is that monster thing? And it was crazy. Were you? I'm guessing you're a big Star Wars fan by that point in '99, though.
Oh, I've been a Star Wars fan since birth. I was literally on set of The Empire Strikes Back. I didn't see the film, but I was on set of The Empire Strikes Back when I was like 4 years old. So, Star Wars has been in my DNA for a very, very long time.
What set? Can I ask?
It was the Hoth set. So there's a picture of me. In fact, if you look on my Twitter profile, there's a picture of me with R2-D2 at Echo Base. Although it's in an office behind Echo Base.
How is that not on the wall behind you?
Yeah, it's true. But no, there's a picture of me in the cockpit of the Falcon. There's a picture of me outside the Falcon, and then of course the one with R2-D2. So
that's incredible.
Yes, it was quite exciting. I remember none of it, obviously, because I was 4. But you know,
but it's nice when the parents taking pictures. And then actually keeping the pictures, because my parents would they would lose them. Completely out the window. So the build up to Phantom Menace, I'm guessing you're really excited, properly excited. Did you buy?
Yes.
Were you into the whole thing? Did you get all the toys from like Kellogg's and all the Tazos from the Walkers?
I did collect the Tazos, but not the Phantom Menace Tazos. I completed the Tazo collection for the special edition.
That's the ones I was thinking about.
In '97, yes, and they came with the little cardboard little lever arch file thing that you had.
Still
you
got
open
it
up and you put your little Tazos in, and they came with now I remember the different Walkers, but they had Doritos. Now Doritos are properly horrible, and so it shows the dedication I had to Tazos that I actually bought the fucking Doritos just so I could finish the collection.
I wasn't allowed Doritos, so I never got those ones.
Why weren't you allowed Doritos, David? Too pointy.
I'm not quite sure. I don't think my parents believed. I thought they're from America or somewhere. I don't know, this new found crisp that came from. They were very much Walkers, like shaped crisps.
That's fair.
Now I'm an adult, I go crazy on Doritos. I think Chili Heatwave is probably my favourite. So you've seen Phantom Menace now. How was the experience going through it? Was it instant love the first viewing, and then since you've got older a bit, or was it instant hate?
It's my relationship with the Phantom Menace has got quite complicated, to be honest with you. So when I first saw it, and I remember I saw it at the View Cinema in Harrow on the Hill, and it was the day it opened, and I remember people have been queuing all day because I'm a terrible human being, because I'm the absolute worst. I joined the queue. I saw that I was at the very back of the queue. I saw they were going to open the door soon, so I walked to the front, went to the usher and went, "Excuse me, where's the toilet, please?" And I was just through there, and the toilets were near the screens. I knew that already. So I went into the toilet, and I just stood in the toilet doorway and waited till they let people in. And then I nipped in first, and I was so in. So I was first in the screen, even though I was one of the last to arrive, because I am that horrible a person. But that aside, I did actually enjoy the screening when I saw it. It wasn't epic. Like, it was like Star Wars is back. The Duel of the Fates stuff was amazing. Yeah. So I was buzzing. Like, I wasn't crushed by it. And so since then, I actually carried a torch for that film. And I was like, do you know what? Phantom Menace is good. Phantom Menace is good. Phantom Menace is good. And I kept saying it. And me and Chris Hewitt used to defend Phantom Menace like all the time. And then it was re-released in 3D. And we went to the screening, me and Chris and Helen, we went to the screening of Phantom Menace. And we came out of it and there was just silence. If I remember, we went to a restaurant afterwards, went to eat, and we just sort of sat in silence. And then Chris just turned to me and went, "Yeah, it's not very good, is it?" I was like, no, it isn't. It's really not very good. And I was crestfallen by it. But since then, I've come full circle because I rewatched the prequels. I mean, I've rewatched them many, many times. But there was a point where I rewatched them, sort of the most recent time I rewatched them, and kind of with all of the baggage and all the various things kind of on board. And I looked at it and I was like, it's not good, not great, but there's good stuff in it. And I think The Phantom Menace has the best stuff of all three films in it, and it has some of the worst stuff. So it's got a really big swing between qualities. But broadly speaking, and it lags in the middle quite a lot, but I mean, it's not that bad. It's actually pretty good. Whereas Attack of the Clones is kind of hateful.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, and Revenge of the Sith, which you remember as being the best of the three, you rewatch it, you're like, you know what? This isn't great either. So actually, even though Phantom Menace is flawed, I do think it's the best of the prequels. I think it's Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, then Attack of the Clones as last. That is, and now I'm prepared to just stand by that. That's now my final resting place on those films.
You heard it here first. I think we might agree with you. I've come up. I think full circle a little bit with Phantom Menace as well. I can't defend Attack of the Clones. That I think is
awful.
Is awful. We've had Chris on the podcast and him defending his famous review. Revenge of the Sith, I quite enjoy in places, but yeah, I think looking back on it, Phantom Menace has got it got bullied quite a lot, and it should be quite proud because he got a whole new generation into Star Wars. We've spoken to a lot of people who are that age when they were young and watched it and absolutely love it. Completely dig it from start to beginning. I can't get on board with that because I don't like the kid who's in it.
Yippee!
It's not good.
It's not his fault. He's only little. Come on.
He's not great, but I will put it to you that Jake Lloyd is significantly better than Hayden Christensen was.
True. Very true.
My, you've grown. More beautiful, that is.
Oh, God.
Kill me. It's just, excruciating.
And the I hate sand line.
Hate sand. It gets everywhere. It's so bad.
I made the mistake of letting my son. We watched all the Star Wars movies, and he thinks Attack of the Clones is his favourite. So
I mean, look, we've all been there.
I failed as a parent.
We've all been to that place.
I failed as a parent, and I'm just going to give up now. He's only 7. I'm hoping he's going to grow out of it.
Your son's got a horrible taste in movies.
He does. He does have horrible taste in movies. Yeah, that's true.
I hope he doesn't listen to this. Were you a video VHS guy back in the day, renting a lot from the?
Oh God, yeah, all the time. I was like, I've owned so many versions of the Star Wars films. I had the original 4:3 VHS tapes. I remember when they first came out in widescreen.
Yeah.
And I remember they were 15 quid each, which doesn't sound a lot, but like back when they came out, that was a shit ton of money. And then I got the THX mastered ones, and I got the special edition ones. You remember you had the gold ones, which were the 4:3 special, and then the silver ones, which were the 16:9 ones. Obviously, I only got the 16:9 ones. And then I had the DVD set. Then I had the Blu-ray set, and obviously I've got the 4Ks. Like I've got so many versions of those films. So when I downloaded the despecialized edition of it, which is technically a pirate version of the film, I was like, do you know what? I have fucking earned the right to watch this because I have bought so many versions of these films that if I want the unedited original theatrical versions in high definition, then god damn it, I'm entitled to them. So I have watched the mainly it was for an article. I wrote a piece on the website about different versions of Star Wars, and I watched the despecialized editions for that, which I was quite impressed by. There's also scans of the original 35mm prints out there as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
Where they've been lovingly restored in 4K, and they've gone through it. I mean, it's cost a fortune. These people have like frame by frame cleaned up and restored the original 35mm print.
Wow.
And released it in 4K, and like they've been very open about it, and bless them, which I think is lovely of Lucasfilm. They have not shut them down.
Oh,
they have not issued a cease and desist. There's been no DMCA issued against them. They've just been allowed to get on with it. And I wonder whether it is because it's kind of a labour of love, and they're clearly fans. They clearly love it. They're not profiting off it in any way.
No.
But I thought when Disney bought the rights to it, the stuff like that would get stopped.
Yeah, me too.
And it hasn't, which is actually, I think, speaks very well of them.
So are they your go-to versions now? Or do you just...
I suppose, yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. I'm quite old school, so I would take the original 35mm prints really, I think, over anything else. The despecialized edition is actually quite impressive. I don't know if you've ever read up on it, but they've compiled it from the DVD, the original Laserdisc, like the 35mm print as well. Like they've used part of that as well. So you get the best of both worlds, where you get the tidied up images, like the cleaned up shots and fixed bits, but you don't get any of the nonsense. Because like the special editions work and they don't work. Like the new effects are nice, but I think the model effects don't date, so I don't think you need those new effects. But the added scenes, I would argue, detract. Certainly in the first one, where you've got that Jabba the Hutt scene, which repeats almost beat for beat exactly the themes of the previous Greedo scene, so it's utterly unnecessary. Yeah. Obviously, we're not even going to get started on Greedo shooting first McClunky, all of that absolute bullshit. You know, it's like any court in the land would have acquitted Han Solo for preemptively shooting Greedo. Like, absolutely. You don't need to get tied up in moral, knots over that. So yeah, and the less said about the excision of Yub-Nub at the end of Return of the Jedi, the better. But yeah, if for Yub-Nub alone, I would go with the original theatrical.
Beautiful.
Which I have on DVD, because one of the box sets, I don't know if you guys remember, one of the DVD box sets that came out actually came with the original theatrical version on there.
I think we had that one.
It was a fuck you from George Lucas to the fans, because he was basically showing that the special editions are better, because he was like, here's the special edition in glorious HD. I think was it DVD or was it the Blu-ray set? I forget. Either way, it was all tidied up. And then he gave you the original theatrical, really grainy, none of it tidied up. I think it's in stereo, like all of it. So it's the shittiest possible version of it was his way of saying, see, you don't really want this, do you? And then if you look for how much those started going on eBay, the answer was, yes, we did. And yes, we did.
Yeah. Thank you. I should look at that, because I probably have that edition somewhere back behind there.
I'll bet you do. Yeah,
that is the edition that we had in my house when I was a kid. I'm 100% sure of it. It had both versions, and we could watch the version that didn't have like rubbish Force ghosts and stuff at the end. And
indeed,
yeah.
Oh, but the thing is, and I wrote a whole article on this. It's like it doesn't work on any level, because those original trilogy ones are designed to be watched after the prequels. Otherwise, Hayden Christensen turns up as a Force ghost, and you're like, who the fuck are you? Genuinely, what the fuck is this mullet wearing? I've never seen you before. Why are you there? I don't understand what's going on. So that makes no sense if you then start with the original trilogy, which of course you have to do, because if you start with the prequels, then the greatest twist in the history of cinema makes no fucking sense, because you already know Darth Vader is Luke's father, because you've literally seen him grow up, shag Padme, have twins. Like, this is not new information, and therefore it ruins Empire Strikes Back. So, I feel, and again, there is a whole article I wrote on this subject. I feel very strongly that you start with, my preferred viewing order is original theatrical 4, 5, 6.
Right. Yep.
Then 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Then special edition 4, 5, 6.
Brilliant.
Oh,
Then
okay.
7, 8, 9. So I call it the time machine edit. So it's like you go back in time and you watch those original theatrical ones, which are hard to get hold of, and then so that maintains the twist in Empire, and then you go back and you watch the original ones, not the original ones, the prequels, and you go through, and then you segue into the special editions, which then they make sense.
Nice.
Off the back of those,
Yeah,
and then you
yeah.
go into the sequel ones. So it's
Yeah.
it's a 12 film set instead of a 9, but still.
When I started dating my now wife, I wanted her to watch Star Wars. I was like, you have to watch Star Wars, and there's no way I could have got her to do the prequels before the new ones, because she wouldn't have watched them.
No.
I mean, I was like, I'm going to show you something decent first, and then show you the tats, and it works. She knows what Star Wars and likes them, so good job there. What is your best ever sequel?
See, the best ever sequel, not mine, this is the best ever sequel, I maintain, is Aliens, without a shadow of a doubt. But for me, like, it's that, and then it's Terminator 2 as a close second. And then
Agreed.
Godfather Part 2 comes third. Terminator 2 is a spectacular sequel for all the same reasons that Aliens is. And because Cameron is the man behind it, because they both take things which are nearly perfect and build on them without trying to reinvent them and without trying to remake them. And they both shift genres entirely. One takes a monster in the house horror movie and turns it into a platoon movie. The other one takes a kind of slightly horror stalker movie and turns it into a broadly family friendly kind of like emotional growth, part odd couple buddy comedy, part father son thing, like with a love story at its core. There's a lot going on in
Cut
terms
out the nuclear war scene and you're kind of
Right.
pretty family friendly movie.
Absolutely. It's magnificent. But Aliens is my first love. Frankly, of all films, sequel or not, I've been obsessed with it since I first saw it when I was far too young.
Well, we have to go into that. How, when, who, why?
Rented it because, just to be a massive twat, I was on set of Alien as well. My aunt was an accountant and she worked for one of the, I think it might have actually been the literal studio. I think she might have worked at Elstree, and so she used to get me onto sets when me and my mum would go and visit when I was very small. So I don't remember. I don't have any pictures of me on the set of Alien.
Damn it!
But I was on the set of that, and so when Aliens came out on VHS, my mum rented it and said, "Oh, we should watch this because you were on set of the first one." It's like, and so we watched it together. I don't know how old I was, but I was young, and obviously I might have scarred me. I think she told me not to look during, frankly, a lot of the film. I think. But there's something about that film that just captivated me, and it's a combination of Horner's score, the Foley artistry, which for that film is nearly flawless, just the Marines, the texture of the Marines, the characters of the Marines. I became obsessed with Vasquez. So I remember when I saw it, I got my mum to go out. We went around all these different shops, and I ended up in this sports shop in Wealdstone, and I bought shin pads and fingerless weightlifting gloves so I could be Vasquez. So the shin pads were my Marine armor, and she has the little fingerless gloves, and I would pretend to be Vasquez.
Did you have the bandana as well?
I was pretending to be a Hispanic the character, not the actor. That's a whole other story. A Hispanic woman. That's what I was role playing as or cosplaying as. I just, everything about that film captivated me to the point where I rented that film about 50 times from the video store near me, which was called literally the video store.
Brilliant.
And it got to the point where the guy said it would literally be cheaper if you just bought the tape, because they were £100 each, those kind of non-sell-through rentable tapes. He said it would literally at this point be cheaper if you just bought the tape and took it home, because renting it every week is frankly insane. But I did, and I love it, and I still love it, and it's great.
So when you've seen Aliens, had your mum shown you Alien at that point?
No, oh god, no. I mean, I think she knew where to draw the line. Like, that's far too hardcore.
Alien is much scarier than Aliens, right?
Yes,
Like,
it is by design. Yes, very much so.
I still think Aliens is very terrifying. I watched Aliens very young when I shouldn't have
It's
done.
the bleep. The
bleep
doesn't it?
absolutely terrifies
The
me.
incursion into the hive early on is very, very frightening.
The lack of music and that when they first enter, it's just
Yeah.
it's so good. What's your favourite scene? What's the one?
That's a very, very difficult question to answer. I would say it would be a tie between two very similar scenes. It's not the "get away from her, you bitch." It's actually a tie between the original Hive incursion, where it's just like where they flame, Apone flames the chest burster, and then it's like movement. And it's the bit where the Hive wakes up.
Yeah.
That's the bit where it comes to life, and Dietrich goes, and Frost goes, and Wisbaski goes. All of them is like being killed one by one, and then they try and run, and only Vasquez and Drake have their guns, and it's an absolute bloodbath. So it's that, and then it's the similar sequence where it's like 5 meters, man, 4, what the hell? When they're in the ceiling, and then they, they attack them in operations. I think both of those scenes are just masterclasses in tension and how to execute action sequences.
Yeah, it's just a brilliant. It dates so well. I watched it read today, and just like you said, the aliens don't really turn up for an hour. It just builds tension and it builds character.
Well, and this is where James Cameron, while I would never seek to contradict him, this is where he's wrong.
Oh,
because he, I had a chat with him once about this, and I was like, what's your preferred version? Is it the special edition or the theatrical cut? And he was like, it's definitely the special edition. I was like, is it though? Like, really? I mean, because Gale Ann Hurd, when he had to cut it back, said to him, you need to lose the reel where Newt's parents find the ship. Because A, it saves you time, like lose all the Hadley's Hope stuff, like all of the colony stuff, just cut it. Because A, it cuts your runtime, but also you've add this massive amount of tension because you have no earthly fucking idea. I mean, you kind of do because it's on the box and it says this time it's war, but you have no idea what they're going to find when they get to the planet. Yeah. Whereas if you've seen the colonists and if you've seen them find the ship, you know exactly what they're going to find. And that's no longer as stressful. And I think the fact that you don't know, the fact that it is nearly an hour before you actually get there, because it's such a slow burn, it is such a pressure cooker. And it's so stressful when they finally get into the complex. And for the same reason, I think the hamster scene, which is only in the special edition, doesn't work for similar reasons, because it's a kind of fake out, but then you follow it with the Newt fake out. It's like, why would you follow a fake out with a fake out? Yeah. That doesn't make any sense at all. So you lose the first fake out, and then the second fake out is genuinely scary. So again, I don't understand why put those back in. The sentry guns, absolutely, they're brilliant. The sequence where they talk about Ripley's daughter, again, I think that adds. I know Sigourney Weaver was not happy that got cut. I think that adds a certain amount of punch to her emotional arc, because she's lost her daughter at the beginning and she's gained her daughter by the end. And I think that's that's a valuable addition, and I definitely have that back. So I would like to see a special edition where we keep the good stuff, sentry guns, Ripley's daughter, and lose the other shit.
The James Dyer.
Yeah, exactly that. So I think we need a new Aliens release.
I think you're right. I think like the introduction of Newt in that, you don't know what she's been through. You don't know what that little girl has been through, and that kind of like introduction to her, you're like, hang on a second, this is serious. Like, some bad stuff has happened here. And I think if they show you all that, it's your imagination is always worse than whatever it shows you, right? So yeah, I think by showing it kind of ruins it a little bit. Then they mostly come at night. Mostly doesn't
it's very
have the it gives me shivers thinking about it now, and it doesn't do that if you know what's happened.
Yeah, I agree.
No. How often do you watch this, James? Is it a yearly thing now?
I don't know that I have a specific time. The last time I saw it was in 2021. That was the last time I watched it. I watched Alien one night. I was showing them to someone, and I watched Aliens the night after.
Did you show them Alien 3?
No, we stopped. I've got time. The assembly cut of Alien 3 is actually decent. Yeah. Like, it's not brilliant, but it's so much better than the theatrical cut. That's decent. Alien Resurrection is not a good film, but it has some good stuff in it. And, I mean, it's diminishing returns, isn't it? Like, it peaks with Aliens, and really you can kind of stop that.
It's tough to, better this, but people did give it a go, and they made some weird choices, like killing Newt and whatever.
Yeah, that was a very stupid thing to do. But then, they wanted to tell a very different story. So, fair play to them. But no, that didn't work for me. Also, it takes some of the. I mean, weirdly, I in my head, I don't even consider that to be canonical. Like, I don't think, oh yeah, Hicks and they're going to die on the way back. No, I don't accept that. That's a separate canon for me. That's like an alternate timeline. I don't hold with that.
How do you feel about the prequels there? Prometheus and
Prometheus I actually like. It's flawed, but the thing is, I like it for a kind of hard sci-fi movie in its own right, not as an alien film.
Yeah.
I kind of, because frankly, it doesn't really feel like one. So I kind of like it for what it is. Whereas Covenant, I didn't like, because then it's very overtly an alien film. I was like, well, this is just very good. Whereas I thought, bar Charlize Theron refusing to run sideways away from a rolling donut thing, bar that, I was quite on board with most of the Prometheus stuff.
Yeah, and the map expert getting lost, and the
it's just
biologist picking stuff up. Just everyone in it is just a bit stupid.
A little bit stupid, yes.
So when you spoke to James Cameron, was it about aliens or was it about his career?
A few times. The first time I mentioned it was an Avatar for the original film, an Avatar interview, and then I've done a career interview with him before. It was for the re-release, the 3D remaster of Terminator 2, and I just started talking about aliens. At one point he was like, "Can we talk a bit more about Terminator 2?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then the next thing I asked was about aliens. It's just like, because he said, because we talked about sequels. I said, well, of course the best sequel is Aliens. He's like, "You're at it again."
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't know what
I'd
to
have
tell
so
you."
many questions about his experience on set of that film, because the making of Aliens is sounds chaotic, with the British crew and their cake trolley or whatever. You didn't see any of this on your visit, then your aunt.
On Avatar, no.
Avatar, the Aliens one.
I didn't see it. Well, I might have done. I don't know. I was that was a Ridley Scott film, so it might have been hardcore in a different way. But I think the bigger problem with Aliens was that crew had worked with Ridley Scott. Do you know what I mean? Like they were like, "Who's this kid? Who's this Canadian kid who's coming? Like, fuck that. Who are you?" And I think there were a lot of egos. There was the fact that Cameron, this is passion for him. Like, what he was doing was massive. It was a hugely important thing. It was the most important thing in his life. He was prepared to burn the candle at 15 different ends. And then you've got this very unionized crew who had their union mandated tea breaks and they clocked off when they clocked off. And in his head, he didn't understand why they weren't prepared to give their absolute all to this thing that he loved, because he was.
Yeah.
And I can understand from his point of view, that's intensely frustrating. And he's so passionate that I get why he was furious. I don't think kicking over the tea lady's trolley was necessarily the way to go, but I know where it came from. I think also he's one of these directors where he's a nightmare for everyone on crew, because he can do everyone's job probably a bit better than they can.
Yeah, I bet he can.
So, which I think is maddening to people, that he sticks his oar in at every stage, whether it be VFX, whether it be, the cinematography, he's looking at the stand, he's looking at the concept designs, like he's all over everything. And I imagine that level of control freakery makes people want to punch him. So,
is he quite an intense person when you interview him, or is he fun?
He's got a good sense of humour, and he's incredibly bright, really articulate, really knowledgeable. He's a delight to interview. I remember asking him, I said, obviously, you were a bit of a fucking hard ass back in the day. I said, now, you're a vegan. And he interrupted me. He goes, being a vegan, if anything, makes you more hardcore. It doesn't make you soft in the head. Just I'm eating fucking carrot bars. I was like, all right, fair enough. But yeah, like, he's got a good sense of humour, but also he's not the kind of person you would mess with. He knows his shit as well.
He's a film fan.
You don't go into a Cameron interview unprepared, I can tell you that, because you will not survive.
Okay. Would you like to see him return to the Alien franchise?
I mean, I think, he'd have to finish Avatar 15 before he can do that. So I don't think he's likely to do that. Would I like to see him go back to it? You know what? I know, because I feel like it's done. I don't think there's anything more to do in that world. I think we have Alien, we have Aliens, and there are some other films. And I kind of feel like I don't really get excited by returns to that world anymore, because at best you're looking at a kind of 3-star. Oh yeah, it's fine. That feels like, and I don't need it. Like, we have 2 perfect films. And I feel like that's all we need. We don't need it. And same with Terminator. I feel like you got Terminator 1, you got Terminator 2, and just stop. Just walk away. There's no need for any of the rest of this shit. Yep. Just 2 perfect films with a perfect ending. Done.
Because if you keep on going, you end up with Alien versus Predator Requiem, and
just
nobody needs that.
Nobody needs that.
But there's a new one coming, isn't there? They're filming it at the moment somewhere.
Yeah,
I can't.
Yeah, there's more on the way, and I sometimes feel like we'll never not get more. There'll be TV shows, there'll be films. They will keep on flogging this IP to death until they can, until they stop making money out of it.
Yeah.
But look, hey, I could be wrong, because I said a long time ago we were done with Predator. Like, Predator, one of the greatest action films of all time. Everything since then has been rubbish. And then Prey came along, and you're like, oh, fuck, this is really good. Yeah. And like, so actually you can go back to something, do something different, and breathe fresh life into it. So, if we could get like a Prey version of an Alien film, I mean, I'd be here for that. definitely.
Alien versus Pirates or something.
Yeah, exactly that.
Something crazy like that. Before we go on to our worst sequel, I've got a quick question. It gears up to the worst. But what's been your most disappointing sequel? So it doesn't have to be your worst sequel.
I mean, it's definitely the same film, unfortunately. Look, let's be honest. In fact, weirdly, what you've hit upon there is a slight problem, because Rise of Skywalker is not the worst sequel I've ever seen, because of course it isn't, because I've seen dozens of straight-to-video films which are a million times worse, because The Rise of Skywalker is not a terrible film. It's a 3-star film. It's good. It's fine. There's actually a lot to recommend it. But it is, without a doubt, the most disappointing sequel I've ever seen. So the reason why it's on my hate list is because it wasn't what I wanted it to be.
Right.
It's not because it's a terrible film.
Okay.
That makes sense. It's not terribly made, is it? It's
it's well made,
but
it's just it's frustrating, because for me the storytelling is unsophisticated. And so J.J. Abrams I've got a lot of time for. I think he's a really talented storyteller and a great filmmaker, and what he did with Force Awakens was what we wanted and what we needed. Now, yes, it hit a lot of familiar beats, and it was essentially a remake of the original Star Wars. But if you're going to remake a film, there are worse films to remake. But what it did was it recaptured the feeling of Star Wars. When I watched The Force Awakens, I had the warm and fuzzies. I was there. I came out, I had this just huge beatific grin on my face all the way through that film, for all of its flaws, and it was glorious. Chewie, we're home. I was like, and then Han dies. So many things happened. The feelings, the emotional roller coaster that I went through with that film, I did not have with The Last Jedi. Now, I love The Last Jedi. I think it's a fantastic film. I think it's a brilliant piece of filmmaking, but it didn't feel like Star Wars in the same way. It felt like something fresh. It felt like something new. In many ways, it was kind of like the Andor of the film things, where they'd gone out of left field and they made this kind of grown-up thing, which wasn't what I wanted, but it was what I needed. And I came out of that and I was like, wow, this hasn't given me the warmer fuzzies, and I feel a little bit cold and detached from it, but I think it's a better film. And I was like, I'm impressed by it, but it just didn't land with me emotionally. And I've rewatched it many times. I still don't connect with it in the warm and fuzzy way, but I think it's a fantastic piece of filmmaking.
I agree with you. And I think the thing I really hated was the fact that Luke Skywalker just gets really tired and dies. And since becoming a parent, I just really understand
You're
that.
Like, yeah, I get that now. I feel you. I feel seen by that. I just want to fall over and just vanish and just have my clothes fall in a heap on the floor. I mean, it's a genuinely great film. It's got a great sense of humor. I think it's fantastic. It's controversial. A lot of people didn't like it, and I think part of that is because it didn't feel like the Star Wars they wanted. It wasn't what they wanted it to be. But then you had this situation where, and I quite respect Rian Johnson for this. And I wrote the Empire features for all 3 of the sequel films, but I respect the fact that he looked at that first film and he said, I don't like that. I don't like that. I do like this. I do like this. This is what I'm going to take away, and this is what I'm going to leave behind. And he told what he wanted to tell. What I thought was not great is J.J. Abrams then came back and went, no. Let's retcon all of this shit that you changed. Let's bring that back. So, he was like, well, we've got Adam Driver. Why would we hide Adam Driver behind a mask? Let's smash his mask. J.J. Nope, we're going to fix that. And he was like, no, this Rey's parents thing, it's hoary and shit. Her parents were no one. They were not important, whatever. And J.J.'s like, no, I think you'll find somehow Palpatine has returned. And you're like, no, what are you doing? And it felt like all of the interesting things that Johnson had done, Abrams kind of then undid. And Johnson was like, Snoke is not interesting, let's just kill him. And then JJ was like, no, let's bring back Super Snoke. And it's just, I don't know, it felt, I don't think it was petty and petulant, and I don't think this is what he intentionally did, because he never intended to do that film, right? It was Colin Trevorrow who was supposed to do it. And I've read Trevorrow's script, actually. And it's imperfect. People go, oh, it would have been this amazing. It was weird.
Yeah, that's in Jurassic World Dominion. I don't know.
Yeah. It's not, don't get me wrong. I don't think it would have been a masterpiece. I think it had some more interesting ideas. But equally, I think Rise of Skywalker has some interesting ideas that are never developed. For me, that film should have been about Rey being drawn to the dark side by Ben Solo, and him being drawn to the light by her, and then meeting in the middle. So that bit where she is force pulling the transport and shoots force lightning, you're like, oh my fucking Christ, that is the film I wanted to see. When they're fighting on that sort of drowned Star Destroyer, the Death Star wreckage, sorry, when they're doing that, that's the film I wanted to see. It's all about those two. It's that relationship. It's the dyad in the Force. It's all the good stuff from Last Jedi. And that's what you want. But instead, you get Finn titting about on fucking horses. You get, like, it's nonsense. And then you get this ridiculous cloned Palpatine thing, which leans into the worst sci-fi trope ever, which is that everyone knows everyone. It's not just the world, it's the universe, and yet everyone's related to everyone. It's the most incestuous thing imaginable. And it makes it all feel smaller, and it takes the magic away from it. It's like, you don't need her to be the Emperor's daughter. And and the bit at the end, Rey Skywalker, it's like, that's not how names work. What are you doing? What the line should have been, it's Rey, just Rey.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
Then she's
100%.
drawing a line underneath everything saying Palpatine was my dad, but fuck him. Like, I'm my own person. And that, for me, has resonance. Not, oh, I'm just going to take the surname of this bloke that I knew for a couple of weeks a while ago for no real reason. Just... No.
100%. 100%. When she said that in the cinema, I couldn't hold it in, and I actually audibly just went, oh, fuck off. And all she needed to say was, it's just Rey.
Yeah.
And that was
just right.
Infinitely better movie, but just one line. Like, I totally agree with everything you've said. Like, it's just... Yeah.
we argue about this a lot because Ben Travis in our office will defend The Rise of Skywalker till the day he dies.
No.
He loves it.
No.
And you know what? Bless him. I love that he loves it.
Yeah,
I'm
that is
glad
cute.
that he can get joy from it. But I cannot. And, you know, I did the feature. I interviewed everyone for it. I was so invested in this film. And I was crushed when I came out of that screening. Absolutely crushed by it. Because it just felt like... It felt like fan fiction writing. It felt like, and then the Emperor's come back and it's the Emperor again and then they're doing this. And look, there's good stuff in it. Like I said, like the fight when Kylo Ren and Rey are together, you know, fighting the Knights of Ren. That's cool. It's not on a level with them fighting the Praetorian Guard in Last Jedi, but it's cool. And there's good stuff in there. All the sunken Death Star stuff, that's great. When you see Dark Rey, that's a tantalizing glimpse again of what this film could have offered you. I just feel like it makes a lot of... I don't want to say lazy choices, maybe easy choices. Yeah. And I just think that's a shame. I would like to have seen them do that thing where, okay, here's the obvious thing. Let's park that and see if we can do something better. Yeah. And I feel like maybe they didn't do that. I will, however, concede it was rushed because J.J. Abrams had very little time to do the story. And they were a bit unprepared for it. He didn't really want to do it. So
that's crazy,
you know,
isn't it?
It's a difficult thing, but weirdly, where I always come back to on this, I do not understand a world in which Disney pays so much money for Lucasfilm, largely because they can do Star Wars sequels, right? Like that was the main driving force between buying Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
And then they do a film, The Force Awakens, and at no point do they think, do you know what? Let's at least sketch out the story for these three. Just bear with me. It's controversial. Let's just, on the back of a napkin, let's just put a few bullet points, maybe just a vague idea where this is going. They're like, no. We'll just do one film and then we'll just make this fucking shit up when we make the second one. Like, it feels like, you know, that writing exercise where you write a paragraph and then it passes to the next person and they continue the story and it'll be like, and, you know, he was at the funeral and then aliens came down and abducted everyone. And then it's like... It's these violent whiplash-inducing tonal shifts, and that's what this is. And I think, if nothing else, the sequel trilogy is an argument for kind of unified storytelling. Like, plan this shit out. It's not a TV show. There's no danger of being cancelled. You could have planned this shit out, and I don't understand why you didn't.
Yeah. There's no danger of being cancelled because you are the network, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, you don't cancel yourself. But yeah, you're right. You're completely right.
I do have to ask, when you write in a feature like this, how much information are you getting from the studio? Like, how many spoilers or tidbits are you getting? Did you know about Emperor before the Emperor trailer that was released at D23 or whatever it was?
I mean, I was at D23 and that's when I found out when Imogen had walked out and he was like, play it again. And you're like, wah! You know, which is when we find out the name of the film as well. So I was out there to do interviews. So I was like, oh my God, which changed all my interviews. And I had to ask questions about all of that. But no, they don't tell us anything. Like, it varies. Like, if you've been on set of a film, which I wasn't for these because JJ wouldn't allow any press on set, that is still a sore point. But Yeah, so JJ doesn't do spoilers. He's very spoiler phobic, so I knew very little. Some actors are more discreet than others, but again, with something like Star Wars, they tend to be quite cautious.
Yeah, but they're signed up.
So generally, with all three of those, going into them, I knew precious little. I knew tidbits, I knew scraps, but not loads. No.
Does that make it harder to write a feature on it?
No, it's much better. The worst thing in the world is writing a feature about a film you've seen.
Really?
That's the worst thing in the world. Yeah. Because you need to be able to have that sense of excitement, that sense of unopened presence in front of you. And I think once you've seen it, it's hard to maintain that level of, sort of squee-inducing anticipation. So, I've seen it. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm finished. It feels to me like that's, you watch it and then you kind of, you write the feature, you get excited, then you watch the film, and that's the end of the journey, right? Like, I feel that's the natural conclusion. If you watch the film and then someone says, "Oh, can you please write 3,000 words on this?" You're like, "Oh, do I have to?" Right, so no, I wouldn't. I will always like to go in blind to these things, so you're still excited and your imagination's running wild. And
is that what it was like going into that press screening? You were still hopeful. Had you heard any
Well, no. So
mumbles?
Helen. So certainly for Force Awakens, Helen reviewed it and she saw it in the morning of the day that we saw it. And I basically said to her, "You're not allowed to talk to me. You're not allowed to text me. You're not allowed to fucking look at me because I don't want to see anything in your eyes." So I basically made her just literally, I said, don't fucking make eye contact with me. Just go away. I wouldn't have anything to do with her until I'd seen it because I didn't want to see like the hint of disappointment or anything in her eyes from it. So no, I deliberately knew nothing going into any of them.
Even Rise of Skywalker. So you sat in the Rise of Skywalker press screening, got your sweets, exciting, got your little Star Wars smile on, probably maybe a T-shirt, who knows?
I had no idea what was going on.
And then the end, was it? And again, Phantom Menace hate at the end, like. Or was it?
No, like I say, like Phantom Menace,
it
wasn't hate at the end of Phantom Menace. I was maybe slightly underwhelmed, but I'd seen a new Star Wars. And bear in mind, when Phantom Menace came out, like Star Wars had been off our screens for a long time.
Yeah.
The only thing we had in that interim was Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire novels, which was like 91 to whatever it is, like 95 those books were. Those were the only things that kept the Star Wars fires burning. So Star Wars coming back then was a big fucking deal. This was slightly different. Do you know what I mean? Like Star Wars had been around. Like by that point, we'd had, Solo, we'd had Rogue One. There'd been quite a bit of Star Wars. So, I didn't feel that sense of magic from it. For me, I just wanted that series to conclude in a satisfying manner.
It didn't.
And it didn't. So,
and
yeah, I was not happy.
Now, just got announced the other day at Star Wars Celebration that they're going to do a follow-on of Rey's story.
They are.
Are you excited for that?
I am actually, because I actually think she's one of the better things. I thought her and Kylo Ren kept those things tight. Those were the characters I loved. Everyone else I could kind of take or leave, but those two I thought were great, and the dynamic between them was great. Obviously, he's not around anymore, but I'm interested to see what Rey did next. So actually, I'm more excited by that than I am about Filoni's, Filoniverse film, where he's going to draw together, Mando, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, all of that. I think the one that interests me most is this one at the very end of the timeline, and then the one at the very, very beginning of the timeline, looking at the Dawn of the Jedi. So that interests me as well.
That'd be exciting. Do you think we're going to finally find out what Finn wanted to tell Rey at any point?
I want Finn to come back. No disrespect to Finn, but like that character, by the end of it, it just got like they are just finding things for this character to do.
I just want to know what he wanted to tell Rey.
It's fine.
He's going, "I've got something to tell you." What have you got to tell her?
It was my lightsaber. I should have been the Jedi. I'm still fucked up about it. That's what he was going to say.
Got another little question for you. Is there a franchise or a sequel that you hated the first one, but the second, third one, fourth one got you back into it?
Ew. I mean, the answer to that is almost certainly yes, though I'm sure I can't think of one. I would say Fast and Furious, but that would be untrue because I love the Fast and the Furious. The first one I thought was great. I think it's Point Break with cars. I love it.
Me too. Agreed.
And then obviously 2 was rubbish and 3 was rubbish, and then suddenly Fast 5 comes along and you're like, what happened here? Because this is amazing, but it's definitely not the same series. So I mean, yeah, so that's gone from sublime to ridiculous, but in a good way.
It is our Fast and Furious question. It does seem to pop up
Yeah,
plot.
it's wild. But again, like I say, I think it's a very different saga at the beginning. But I like the first film a lot. It's in some ways a bit generic, but it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good film. But yes, I mean, I do think this is a thing that happens. That you do get films which kind of misfire and then sort of pick up pace as they go along. But honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of any other examples.
We were watching the Planet of the Apes at the moment films. We're doing feature on that.
Well, that's not a bad shout. Matt Reeves' ones, because again, the first one is a bit hit or miss. Second one is fantastic, and the third one's really good as well. So.
Well, I was thinking about the originals.
Yeah,
the original films.
Watch them because one's good, two's awful, and then three's pretty interesting. And then I haven't watched 4 and 5 yet.
It's downhill sharp, Dave. I'm sorry.
Don't ruin it. But yeah, the other Dawn, Rise, Dawn, War.
Yeah, the nomenclature of those films is fucking ridiculous. It's Rise, then Dawn, then War. Except the Rise comes before the Dawn, and then even though the last one is called War, the War is actually in Dawn and not in War. It's just like what the fuck? But yeah, those are great films. Well, the second two.
Yeah.
Oh, not the first one?
The first one's fine. The first one is resoundingly 3 stars, I think. And then I think it really takes off when you get into the kind of post-apocalyptic ape run world. I love the second one. I think Dawn is fantastic. It's really fucking bleak. Though.
Yeah.
So was the last one, I think.
And now they're doing another one of them as well. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
I'm here for it. My doors are always open to new apes films.
It's never ending at all. What is your dream sequel?
I mean, do I have a dream sequel would be a better question. I mean, the example I gave you, the one I gave you was Matilda, which was the mooted sequel to Leon, which is one of my all-time favorite films. Problematic as it is. But this was one where Besson wanted to make it and they were waiting for Natalie Portman to get a bit older, because they wanted her to be kind of like in her latter teenage years. And it was going to be about her, I think, going after the cartel behind Stansfield. And sort of like killing everyone. She's at that point she's working as a cleaner. You know, she's killing for money. That's what she does at that point. And it all fell foul of the sexiest of things, which is IP ownership. That Luc Besson fell out with Gaumont, which was they owned the rights to Leon, and so they refused to let him make it. So he retooled it as Colombiano, which was the Zoe Saldana film, which unfortunately isn't very good. But that, you know, broadly speaking, is what Matilda could have been. I'd like to think Matilda would have been better, you know, and obviously different. They did retool it, but I think a lot of the beats exist in that.
Have you ever sat there and wondered what you want from that film? What would?
And for me, not particularly. For me, it's more about spending more time with that character. Like, I think Matilda's great. I love Leon so much. I think it's a great film. That's another one with shall we say, an interesting director's cut. I don't know if you've seen the version in the
Yes, the restaurant.
We were talking about that the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, so people tend to focus on an odd thing with that. Like, they focus on when you watch that, Matilda's absolutely complicit in the murder of people. Like, she's no longer an innocent. I'm like, also she offers to have sex with him. Can we kind of maybe focus on the important things here? I think that's really the thing that I took away from it. And that film is already problematic because, bearing in mind that it has been said, and I think this has been said openly, so I'm not libeling anyone, but it's the inspiration for that relationship in Leon was Luc Besson's wife at the time, who he had begun dating when she was 15. So many problems there. So many problems. I believe she said, oh yeah, the character was inspired by me. And you're like,
whoa,
okay, that's not awkward at all. And now I'm going to have to watch that and have that in my head. But there's something, I think the thing that stops that film from being extremely creepy is that because Leon himself, the way Jean Reno plays him, he is so inherently childlike that it's more like she's an actual child and he is a big child. He is someone who has never really, even though he kills people for a living, he's never really grown up, and he's quite simplistic. And so they almost relate on a level. So, and he's asexual in the film, so it's not like, you know, it's not as pedo-y as it frankly sounds when you tell people the story of it. And there's something like when he's teaching her the craft of murder, like he doesn't really think about it as, oh, this is really not for a 12-year-old girl. It's just that's what he knows. That's his craft. That's his skill, and he feels like he's giving her a gift. You know, and the morality of it is kind of neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Also, he only kills bad people. No women, no kids. It's fine.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Who among us can say we've not done that? For
The sense I get with like the dodginess of Leon is that Luc Besson is dodgy, but the movie is tempered back from him. I mean, you know,
I just hang on. That's my lawyer on the phone. I'll maybe leave that alone. But I mean, you may be onto something. You may be onto something. But it's a glorious film. I think the theatrical version is glorious. I find the longer version, the international version, an interesting cure. I love the fact that they've unified the titles. So this was Leon in the UK, it was The Professional in the US, and now it just seems to be Leon the Professional. They've just crashed those two things together for its legacy title, which is interesting.
Would you be anyway interested of seeing an older Natalie Portman? So maybe around now, she's about 40, 45 now, I think. Would that interest you, that kind of film? Like, imagine like a John Wicky, like that seems to be in...
Maybe. I would be curious to see it. Like, again, it's one of these things, there's a risk with all this stuff. As people always say, they always say, like, you know, but, you know, having a bad sequel doesn't take away from the original. Except it fucking does, doesn't it? Because you then can't watch that original without thinking, oh, well, this is where it goes. So there's always risk, I think, when I always call it pissing in the swimming pool, when people, you know, like sully this thing that you love or try and expand upon it. And I think demystification is the worst thing you can do. Like, I think a lot of stuff like leaving threads dangling, that's great drama.
Yeah.
You want something where you watch it and you don't fully understand it. I don't know if you saw Shining Girls, the adaptation of Lauren Bute's Shining Girls on Apple. But some significant changes are made from the books there. And a lot of dangling threads are never really explored or explained. And you can't get the answers from the book because it's changed quite a lot. But that's why I became utterly obsessed with that series, because there are no answers. You know, you can draw your own conclusions, and you know there's enough there that you feel there's something there, but you can't quite get a handle on it. What I don't want from that is 3 spin-off series as a movie which absolutely spell out absolutely everything in mythology, because then you've ruined it. Like, you've ruined it for me doing that. Yeah. Sure, I get to spend more time in that world, but you've now ruined it. So don't do that. And you know, Leon is not a puzzle box, but do we need to see what happened to Matilda? Or actually, is it more interesting to see her go off, plant the plant, give it roots, and potentially have a normal life that he's kind of almost provided for her? Maybe that's just where we need to
Could be
it.
a comedy.
Yeah.
Maybe it could.
A romantic comedy.
I think that
we've had
sounds
some
awful,
people
Dave,
pick... well, you never know. We've had some people pick this before, and they've kind of thrown like a Godfather 2 prequel sequel at us, and that sounded quite good. So like you're intercut with a young Leon basically in the French Resistance or something. This was some guys
oh good god.
And get into
kill it with fire.
Get into the point of him being trained as an assassin, but also, you know, cutting like Godfather 2, the older Natalie Portman doing kind of the same thing, but hunting down the people that...
I love the fact that he's supposed to be Italian in that film.
Is he?
Leon is supposed to be... He's not supposed to be French. He's supposed to be an Italian hitman.
Really?
Despite clearly sounding French and having a fucking accent on the E of his name. Yeah, there's even a line in the film where he says the same Italian hitman. And you're just like, he's so French, it's not even funny.
That should blow my world.
Just blown Dave's mind.
Yeah.
I do think it was weird that they went to the
mad.
Italian restaurant every time. It's like,
yeah, it's mad. It's mad that he's supposed to be Italian. Yeah. It makes no sense at all.
Plus, if you do a sequel, how do you top Gary Oldman? How do you go bigger than that?
With great difficulty. With great difficulty.
Those were James Dyer's Unequal sequels. I mean, classics. Classic picks. Like, very kind of classy choices. Aliens, probably one of the best sequels, if not the best sequel ever made. Rise of Skywalker, big old pile of toilet, and he hates it as much as I do. And Leon, which has been quite a popular choice, I think, for a sequel.
I think lots of people would like to see a sequel to Leon. Thank you for James coming on, talking to us. It's always exciting to get someone on from the Empire Magazine, Empire Podcast for me.
We will get the whole Empire crew at one point.
They're all coming on because I'm such a massive fan and I'm a nerd boy around them. But the man loves aliens. He loves James Cameron films. He's passionate about aliens, and especially when you see it when you're proper young. I think everyone who's seen Aliens and who truly loves Aliens watched it when they shouldn't have watched it. It always seems to be a point in their life when they were underage, like 8 or 9.
I did not.
No, you watched it when like you were a 26-year-old man.
Yes, that is true. Still love it though. Still think it's great.
It is easily in like the Unequal sequel Hall of Fame for best sequels.
Big time.
When someone says they want to pick that, we're like, well, that's a
Of course. Yeah, of course you do. Is it our most popular choice for best sequel?
It's definitely getting up there now. It was definitely slow going at the beginning. No one picked it for ages, and then lots of people picked it. And then if you start talking about aliens, you start talking about Terminator 2 as well. It's always they come in this same conversation, isn't it? Because it's James Cameron. But yes, I liked his stories. Thank you, James, for coming to talk to that. His worst. The man really hates Rise of Skywalker.
Which is fair.
It's his most disappointing. His most hated. I think it's amazing how many people hate that film. And it's always the same reasons we hate it as well.
Do you know what?
It wasn't planned.
I think that might be one of our most hated as well.
It must be. At this point, it must be. I think Jurassic World Dominion is coming up fast.
True.
But lots of people hate Rise of Skywalker. We didn't even get we asked James what was his most disappointing, and we went straight into this. So that's how much he hates it. There was no stopping him. And then Leon. Leon is an interesting one for a Dream sequel, because I think the groundwork's been laid, but sadly we'll never get it.
We'll never get a Luc Besson one, definitely not.
I learned out something new in that conversation, though, that I didn't know he fell out with the production company, so he doesn't actually own the rights to Leon.
No.
Or something like that.
Probably not. Probably means we're more likely to get a sequel, I guess. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, it's not going to happen. Unless Natalie Portman comes out tomorrow and says, do you know what? I fancy doing that now. And that's the only way that film's going to happen. But I'd kind of like to see it. But, Luc Besson is also cancelled, I think.
Yeah,
so
bad person.
Person. Thank you, James, for coming on. Thank you. We've been chasing James for a while.
Oh, we have, definitely. Yeah, like all good Empire people, we are always chasing to get.
Do you know what I love about the Empire people? Was once they're on, you can literally just press play and they just go.
We don't have to say much.
There's no ums and ahs. It's just
easy week for us because we're like, oh, yeah.
And they're so they know. James knows his shit as well, and he's so passionate about his shit. He's a massive geek, and we've had Boyd on from Pilot TV as well. Yeah. So we know the good fun. If you want extra, James, go listen to Another Slice.
Get yourself onto anotherslice.com/unequal sequel, where you can subscribe to our subscription service. It's only $2.99 a month, which is incredible value. It really is. For that, you get a sequel to every one of our interview episodes from last season and this season. You also get Box Set Mentality, where we look into a different box set every single month and look at the different movies in that and give them some ratings. We've just finished doing the Planet of the Apes box set, and we're looking for a new one. There'll be a new one coming soon. And there's also Disenfranchised, which is our where we look at movies that should have had a franchise but didn't for some reason. And
I'm enjoying that
one. That's always quite an interesting one, isn't it? That's always quite an interesting one. Yeah, so get along there. $2.90. It's only $2.99 a month. Extra us, extra James Dyer. Go along and have a listen. It's really worth it. If you don't have that $2.99 a month, that's no problem. This bit's always going to be free. And also, our extra episodes every Friday, they're also going to be free as well. So make sure you hit the little subscribe button, the little auto-download button, and we'll drop into your pod player of choice at least once a week. At the moment, twice a week. So you get double us. We're spoiling you. We're really spoiling you. Get along to Twitter or Instagram. We are at Unequal Sequel. Let us know what you thought of James's picks, and we'll read out your comments in the end of month roundup, which we always do. You can also, if social media is not your thing, we have an email, unequalsequel@hotmail.com. Yes, that is hotmail.com. Get in touch. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, whilst you're there, fancy writing us a little review, tapping out a little what you think of the podcast. Nice stuff. Appreciated. 5 stars, little tick, little heart, whatever it is in your pod player of choice. We'd really appreciate that. It helps other people find the podcast.
Yeah, you can slate us off. but give us 5 stars.
Oh yeah. Say we're rubbish in the comments, but it just gives
5 stars.
anyway.
5 stars rubbish. Because algorithm shit. Yeah, thank you for listening. Go listen to the Empire podcast with James and our other guests like Chris Hewitt and Helen O'Hara. I think most of you probably do if you're listening to this. Go listen to Pilot TV, which is James. Man, he watches so much movies and TV. I don't know.
The time.
His life
Probably
sounds
it's
exhausting.
his full-time job, right? Like,
Oh yeah, fair point. But that's also brilliant. That's got the brilliant Boyd Hilton also been on the podcast. Go check out their podcasts. Go read Empire Magazine's one of the best film magazines out there. Rich, you got anything else to say?
I do not.
Or do I? Believe it or not, I'm out of words. So it is a bye, a sincere bye. Bye. I'm trying acting classes soon, so bye. And it is a bye from him.
Bye!
See you in the next one. Sequel to this one. We will be back.
We will be back.
Yeah. Doesn't really work as I'll be back, does it?
No. We'll be back.
They wouldn't cast me as the Terminator. Small little ginger kid.
No. Not
Barely
really.
able to see over the counter in the police office.
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. None of them will fit.